G'day friends and thrill seekers, welcome back to What Lies in the Sunday Telegraph, a weekly, when I do it, which I didn't last week because I was at a fake festival, but normally weekly, exploration of what is in Australia's highest selling newspaper, a source of continual disappointment and revulsion to all well-informed human beings on the planet. We will apply the power of critical thinking, a cup of coffee, and an aging white man in a beard to this travesty of journalism. So, with that open mind and open heart, we set out what is in the paper, or what is on the paper. Let's have a look at the cover. will.i.am's Qantas row, it was like a police state. That's a fun story, we'll get to that. Radical concussion bans for teen sports. This is the wussification of the nation, which unfortunately we need to do because of all the mounting piles of evidence that lots of head knocks are not good for human beings. And Ray's shock proposal. Ray Hadley is to marry his new love. I really feel the woman suffered enough without being put on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph, being touched by Ray Hadley. And the main item on the front page is that Disney Plus is launching from the 19th of November, which is Tuesday. Odd day to launch. I guess it lets them build up numbers through the week. Cool. Disney Plus. Promising Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. It's intriguing that National Geo gets on there, isn't it? Everyone loves their wildlife docos, particularly when they've smoked a few. And we've got some, frankly, Indigenous-themed footprints on the top with a promise to walk this way to save your life. So I'm thinking it's a barefoot walking advocacy. Oh, so it's a whole wraparound of every Pixar, most Marvel, everything Star Wars, Disney. I'm surprised Foxtel or the Murdoch Empire has sold this page, given that it's competing with Foxtel. I assume we're going to get some sort of tie-in. And so we come to the real front page, because, you know, no one has the discipline to only have one front page these days. Teen Hegnock, don't dud Underworld, a tech startup guru who sparked a gangland feud after his collapsed business cost Underworld figures $100 million. The man at the centre of the failed venture, Amin Naman, is missing in action while one of the investors is recovering from gunshot wounds. Police allege the man was shot because he received some of his money back. I look forward to this full report, special report, pages 10 and 11. Okay, then there's some firefighters with a harrowing tale. Ray Hadley is apparently a sucker for love. I mean, that really is the face of the Telegraph readership, isn't it? So he's got some growth there. Maybe he's trying to grow a beard. Anyway, at least she appears to be age appropriate. Not that, you know, I'm against love finding a way wherever it may. Page 3. We don't do page 3 girls in Australia, but somehow Kim Kardashian is somewhat en deshabille. I assume she's either sold or given away a photo to bump up some other part of her business empire. Rapid fire rifle stocks face ban. It's an interesting one because our small magazines in this country would make, you know, there's just no reason to have a bump stock in Australia with the firearms we have. So why let them have them? Mixed picks, what's the best things in the paper? Walk for your heart health. Yeah, walking is good for you. Get a dog, it'll make you walk. Also, then you'll have a dog, which is good too. New Look Escape has something about Hamish Blake. Inside the bushfire war room, because we're all about supporting our fireys while we do nothing about why there are so many fires. We have recipes that never go out of fashion, so I imagine prawn cocktail is going to be in there. We're promoting the fact cricket's coming because it's summer. Blanche Dalpuget has updated her Hawke biography. That's a good work on the publicist to get that into Mixed Pigs. What if they charge? I suspect they might. The concussion crisis is the 7th best story. That's something vaguely newsworthy in the best things in the paper. That's highly unusual. And then we have some more on this Sydney businessman business scheme collapse, owing money to the city's most notorious families. As someone who's been involved in a few tech-like startups, it's always the problem that many people who've got money are difficult characters, shall we say. Well, only people who've got money to spare to invest and want to frankly launder it. So 2 pages of Ray Hadley's met his love match. Right, Annika Smethurst is going into bat for the vaping companies, which are mostly just tobacco companies, saying those damn doctors have oversold the risks. Oh, and in good news, Tones and I has unseated Ed Sheeran in the Australian charts for longest running number 1. I mean, no one even knows what the Australian charts are based on these days. I assume it's mostly radio play. So not that hard to game, really. Sure as hell isn't little singles being sold in whatever format anyone's using. Nicole is our queen of fashion. Nicole Kidman will be the cover for Vogue's 60th anniversary edition. Vogue Australia, so not really, is it? Right, Sue Dunleavy on the medical beat has the picture that should enrage migraine sufferers, an empty lecture at a migraine symposium. Without delving into the details of the symposium and the number of factors that might have led to its poor attendance, it's really hard to form a judgment, isn't it? Apparently, rugby union is better than rugby league for dealing with concussion. 2 pages on concussion. Fundamentally, people can't keep running around hitting each other, and it's going to take 20 years for everyone to come to the conclusion that we should already be at, but whatevs. And I say that's something I love watching me some full contact football of a variety of codes, but the evidence is there, it's clear, we're just denying it as we always do until we're forced to accept it. Right, will.i.am, the Black Eyed Peas star and sort of public intellectual, I think is a fair assessment, has had a run-in with a Qantas hostess who didn't appreciate him on his laptop with noise-cancelling earphones on, which frankly could happen to just about anyone these days, and then called the police, who then decided he hadn't actually done anything wrong. And Qantas is saying it's a misunderstanding. So often the celebrities are in the wrong, but in this one, feels like he might not be. So this company was called, this is the Tech Bus Sparks Underworld feud, Namtech. Tech startup guru Amin Naman. Jeez, he does not look like a dude I would lend money to. And Salim Mahaj is caught up in this. This is the story that's got everything for the Telegraph. Bankstown figure, the Muslim Brotherhood street gang, movement street gang is involved. Oh, this is just everything. Right, so Namtech was going to develop a suite of apps. Unknown apps, just apps. Everyone wants apps, right? Yeah. Looked like a good little pyramid scheme. Probably had some intention of making stuff, but turns out it's hard. Okay, more on fires, nothing on climate change. Inside the fire war room, caring for koalas, shonks trading on misery. Still nothing on the climate changing. Why we're having all these fires in early November. So we've got a whole page on a family that's combined their last names for their child's last name. Good for them. Teens are still not sun smart, say the experts. Those teens, not being sensible like we want them to be. Like we weren't. Give them a break. And there's another little $100 million pyramid scheme. That seems to be the gold standard for Australian business failure, doesn't it? Rugby star admits to choking his wife. Ex-Wallaby Brett Sheehan. I would not call Brett Sheehan a star, but sure. It's weird when you do a DV story with the social media pictures of the smiling happy couple. I mean, it feels kind of just dirty. Apparently Scott Morrison's staff have paid more than $23,000 in taxpayer cash buying camera and video equipment since he became Prime Minister. $7,000 on cameras, 2 cameras, $3,000 on a wide-angle lens, $327 for a tripod. Frankly, it's a question of how often they buy this equipment, but that seems, you wouldn't expect the Prime Minister's office to be shopping around for the really dirt cheap stuff, would you? I mean, the beautiful thing is that a kid with an iPhone can just about do everything they're doing. Hello, this is me just shitting on an iPhone. Well, is this better or worse than the Prime Minister's video? If it's hard to say. Less likely to get people killed, I guess. So Prince Andrew's disastrous interview about the Epstein case, where he says he can't remember all the sex slaves he slept with. Certainly can't remember this one, the one who's accusing him. Shame there's a picture of him with his hand around her waist. Doesn't really help you. I never met the girl defence, does it? Normally, if you're anyone else, you can just resign and slip away from the public gaze, but you can't resign from being the Queen's son. And why should he be able to get off? What he's accused of and what he's got no defence for is he really should be looking at prison time. Right, so TV talkback host Chris Smith, who Annette Sharp in this paper gave quite a damning character assessment of a few months ago, is going on to Sky News, where all the washed-up shouty hacks spend their days shouting at a tiny band of elderly, crazy people. Unfortunately, those elderly, crazy people are Liberal Party branch members who shaped the inescapable government with support of the Murdoch press. It's all quite self-perpetuating when you think about it, isn't it? Tiny little echo chamber of horrible people. Welcome to Australia. Terror fears for Bali schoolies. I have no sympathy whatsoever for schoolies who get an overseas holiday for their schoolies debauchery. I mean, the Gold Coast frankly seems overly extravagant, but again, how people, well, is it their money? If anyone's working in McDonald's to save up for their Bali schoolies trip, I doff my lid to them. They're welcome to do whatever they want, but this entitlement to parents paying for some sort of thing just seemed, I don't get why the parents go in for it. I'd just be saying, you're grown up, go spend your own money and do your own thing. Neglected stormwater drains polluting Sydney's harbour, so they need some waste excluders. All right, so 40% of the gross pollutant traps are not working. Well, that, yeah. This is how the media is supposed to work. Highlight a problem, shame the government into acting. If it's a bonus for the Murdoch press, if it's the city of Sydney who they hate. Apparently a ketogenic diet may help fight influenza. Apparently it activates a subset of T cells in the lungs. Well, your body does think it's dying. That's the whole point of the keto diet, which is unbelievably dangerous for most of the people who need to try it. Because if you're an undiagnosed diabetic, a ketogenic diet is really dangerous. So John Barilaro, who recently has said some very unkind things about Greens and the bushfires and has little sympathy for me, is in a fight with Airbnb because he wants to bring in new standards even though he lets a house on Airbnb, because of course he does. That's the source. And amongst the source, Emma Hussar is looking to date. I don't quite see why it's anyone's business if a single woman who's no longer in Parliament. She did tweet, so she made it public. I guess I might have run that story if I was in their shoes, but sitting as a member of the public, it feels a little vindictive. What else have we got here? Oh, what lies beneath the harbour city? Sydney's buried secrets. Create a 3D map of the city. That's a... Save it up. Right. Cheap meals. Apparently Matt Preston says you have to love schnitzels. There's a bunch of hotels that do cheap meal deals. Probably hoping you'll play the pokies. Apparently Ron Medich has hired Australia's most expensive barrister, Brett Walker SC, to run his appeal against his murder conviction. All the cash flow problems he cited in his trial appear to have disappeared when it comes to paying Mr. Walker's legal bills. Interesting thing they've got in there that apparently junior judges get different resources in the courts to the more high-profile ones. And you might have thought there was some uniform standards for appropriate technology for trials. I guess not. 2 pages of Bob Hawke. Apparently we're all getting ready for Christmas earlier and earlier each year, which will keep selling newspaper advertising, so why not? These desperate retailers hope to finally have a Christmas boom, despite the fact that, let's face it, I am going to order all of my Christmas presents from Amazon, so I can just sit on my couch, scratching my dog's ears, and a few days later, they turn up on the doorstep. Why would I go through the hell of going to a shopping centre, trying to find a park, pushing through the screaming crowds, trying to get served, when I can stay at home, drink a beer, buy some stuff on Amazon? Christmas is done. Doesn't need to be Amazon, Kogan, whatever online retailer floats your boat. Though if Amazon want to sponsor this show, certainly I am open to reasonable offers. So property, apparently David Gingell and Layla McKinnon have sold their Dover Heights home. Paul Garland's buying more property in the Shire, of course he is. Home loan advice, you shouldn't be paying more than 3.2% or switch bank. Now we're into sport. Alright, heart and soul, walking is good for you. Walking in groups is even better for you. It turns out, exercising while socialising, both things that are good for you. Skin cancer, put on some sunblock. Can you imagine being given a job to write 300 words on why you should put sunblock on? I mean, it'd be easy, you just crib it off the Cancer Council website, don't you? But it's soul-destroying running the same story for 50 years. A food blogger is recommending vegan burgers, which is good. I mean, God, I can remember in London back in the 90s, so too long ago. Bean burgers were just a cheap go-to in, Hungry Jack's and McDonald's, and yet in Australia we're still, vegetarian burgers. More on the sun and why you need to buy sunblock. Ads for sunblock. Thank God someone's awake at the switch. page after page of ads for sunblock. How do you choose, though? How do you choose which one? And then fragrances to spray over your greasy, sunblocky skin. This paper has really cashed in on the pharmacy spend this week. I don't think I've ever seen so many ads in this paper. That's a pity. Speaking of the financial well-being of the Sunday Telegraph, it's come to my attention that some of you have started buying the Telegraph so you can see what I'm talking about. And while I applaud that influence, it is a bit of a perverse outcome. So, anyhow, let's just all say we're doing it ironically because, I'm buying this piece of crap as well, aren't I? So, we're doing it ironically so we can be better informed and tell people about what we've read, okay? That's our story, folks. Cricket. Jessica Halloran is talking about how great Sam Kerr is. Sam Kerr doesn't indeed seem to be great. She's signed with the Chelsea Football Club. Good for her. It's taken a surprisingly long time for sports clubs to realise that they have a captive audience that wants more content, and a women's league fills that role. Don't think that anyone's actually gotten woke about equality. It's all just business opportunities. But if a business opportunity let's in some small way some inequality be righted, then let's not object too much, Right, we're finally talking about the protests in Iraq. Venice is drowning in bungling and corruption, and I'm sorry, did people warning about climate change not mention Venice's threatened status? I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure that came up. Right, so apparently Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani in Iraq has backed the protesters against the government. So it's very much the Shiites are up in arms. Wow, so in Chile, the protesters have won a announcement that there'll be a referendum to replace the constitution. That is really significant. Protests in Chile have been really quite inspiring, and to get a significant outcome like that is it's really important. Now, here's a classic piece of Murdoch. Terrorist fanboy Corbyn can't lay a glove on Boris. We're not going to hear one honest word about the UK election. Not one. Maybe Boris will win it, but, for a man who can't even tell you how many children he's got, seriously, look up his Wikipedia entry. It's 5 or 6. Sure, let's make him the Prime Minister. I mean, I know that he is the Prime Minister, but he only got elected by Tory members. General election win's a bit different. Anyway, we've got a glowing thing about how great Boris is and how terrible Corbyn is, which is all the Murdoch media is ever going to tell you. The Murdoch media still can't understand how Corbyn's the Labour Party leader in the UK, and it's because people who want to vote Labour and join the Labour Party really like what Corbyn's offering. And, you call someone an anti-Semite because they express some sympathy for the plight of the Palestinian people is low stuff. Now we turn to Peter Credlin, who tells us the Greens have been given a lesson in how to act during a crisis. Yes, Peter objects to the Greens wanting something done about climate change and says they should all get out and fight the bushfires. Don't see Peter Credlin donning her orange and getting out there with a rake, but it's not her role, is it? Peter's role is to tell the government what it should do, and she's the only one, apparently, who's allowed to do that. We got a thumbs up for Pauline Hanson from Peter Credlin. Let's not take that any further. Thumbs down for the ABC for likely editorial breaches following its program on animal welfare in the racing industry. Hypothetical editorial breaches, eh? And Peter also tells us that Harvey Norman boss Katie Page should be a pin-up girl to anyone who demands more women in the boardroom. This is a real doubling down defending her... Harvey Norman against Stephen Mayne, the Crikey founder, who's been rattling the cage on executive remuneration. We're saying how great Katie is, and that nasty activist is possibly going to unseat her. Opinion page, Annika Smethurst is saying, Micmacs really got my goat. That's Michael McCormick. The Deputy Prime Minister's attack on raving inner-city lunatics shows just how worried he must be about keeping his job as leader of the National Party. Michael McCormick himself, a property owner in Melbourne, lost his cool this week, branding those voters who think climate change could increase the fire risk as pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies. For now, let's leave aside the debate about climate change or whether it's appropriate for the Deputy PM to ever describe any Australian as a lunatic. Actually, no, we can deal with that one now. It's not So, good on Annika for getting onto the opinion page, having a go at... Piers Ackerman is saying, hey, isn't technology great because of the fires near me? And technology is great. It runs just fine on renewable power, though, Piers, and we can decarbonise the economy and have less fires. Wouldn't that be lovely? Don't get me wrong. Decarbonising the economy means maybe less fires in 100 years. But if we don't decarbonise the economy, we're going to have guaranteed lots more fires in 100 years and more fires all the way through. And more severe fires. Assuming we don't just burn out the whole country and live in an ash-strewn wasteland, which admittedly will be short on fires because there's nothing to burn. But that doesn't sound great either, does it? Telegraph's giving a big up to Jason Wood for standing firm against guns, and why not? Although, if you ever are short of a laugh watching Jason Wood try to read questions at question time in Parliament, well, at least that won't happen now he's a minister, I guess. Anyway, the man is barely capable of reading. Wow, editorial columns devoting 6 paths to their wine writer leaving. People are still getting married. Movies, Ford v Ferrari gets 4 stars. I saw the ads for Ford v Ferrari and I just thought, it's very clever algorithmic filmmaking saying, what is a story that is going to appeal to a demographic that we don't normally get to buy movie tickets, and get Matt Damon and Christian Bale in there, and it's very good. Very clever. Official Secrets with Keira Knightley only gets 3 stars. Charlie's Angels 2.5 stars. Cool, so Insider says that a multi-best-selling author is featuring Australia without ever having been here. Which, frankly, given that he's been involved with, Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible, if I was a writer and I had that kind of budget, if I was a writer, full stop, and I've got some projects on the go, but I haven't finished anything, so I'm not going to, anyway. I stick to settings that I know. I think that's actually quite important, is to write as much as possible about what you know, so that then when you do take a flight of fancy, it's coming from a credible place. Anyway, the book's called Cold Storage. I don't intend to read it. It sounds crap. Okay, we got 2 pages on Olivia Colman's turn in The Crown, and because they've turned over all the cast. Oh wow, Charles Dance is playing Mountbatten. That's fantastic. I look forward to seeing that. I like The Crown. I find it a really good historical perspective, and I have actually learnt things watching it. I sit there fact-checking it, but yeah. The Crown. If you haven't watched it, it's very well-made television. It's a little pro-monarchy, sure, but it's a perspective, and, we need valid perspectives as opposed to the fantasy peddled by the Murdoch press. Right, Annette Sharp tells us that Sonia Kruger's doing stuff. Great. So it turns out Graham Kennedy and Bernard King are gay, which I don't think will surprise anyone, or were gay. Apparently there's a tiz about outing them now. I'm sure it's very important within that community, and I apologise for taking the issue lightly. More on the fact Olivia Colman's playing the Queen. That's the whole back page. Oh, apparently Mia Wasikowska has returned to movies with a feminist fairy tale. I kind of missed that. That's why you have pointers on the covers, isn't it? The movie's called Punch and Judy. Sorry, Judy and Punch. My apologies for getting that wrong. Cool. Duncan Lay's talking about very old news about Good Omens, which is the next best thing to Game of Thrones, I guess. Alright, folks, I'm going to let you go now. Do please, like, share, subscribe, give me your love, tell your friends, grow the brand, and stay true.